Hello everyone, and welcome back to Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Today we're going to take a look at the friendship between Princess Diana and Sarah Ferguson, who was a duchess. They knew each other long before they got into the spotlight of being in the royals. So Diana and Fergie are cousins. I didn't realize it, but Diana and Fergie were both fourth cousins. They were descended from William Cavendish, the fourth Duke of Devonshire. They didn't really spend any time together until 1980. According to Town and Country, they reconnected in 1980 when Diana was 19 and Sarah was 21. The two young women shared a lot of the same friends and many of the same interests, and were soon lunching together every week. Diana gave Fergie fabric to make a dress for the wedding that she had invited Fergie to, her wedding to Prince Charles, and Sarah was a bit hurt that even though she was invited to the wedding, she wasn't invited to the post-ceremony. Well, Diana was a matchmaker for Fergie. Diana decided she would try and get Fergie and Prince Andrew together. Sarah and Andrew had crossed paths a few times, but nothing came of it till they met at a dine and sleep event that was hosted by the Queen at Windsor Castle during Ascot Week. And in 1985, Sarah Ferguson attended after Diana had recommended her to the Queen to invite her. Sarah found herself seated next to Prince Andrew at dinner, and this was the start of a romance. Princess Diana made sure the romance continued by inviting them to Highgrove, a country home that was owned by Charles and Diana. And while Andrew was away due to military duty, Diana invited Sarah to a ski trip in Switzerland with her and Charles. So Diana showed Fergie the works. When Fergie became more involved with Andrew and the royals, she felt nervous, and there was a photo event, and Sarah looked to Diana for advice, and Diana told her, "Just keep smiling." And so she did. How Prince Philip felt about Fergie and Diana. Well, Prince Philip knew what it was like to be an outsider in the royal family, so he tried to help Diana when she first entered into it. According to People Royal, once she was married, she never sat next to her husband. She always sat next to Philip at endless black-tie dinners, and he took care of her. Even after Andrew Morton's tell-all 1992 book, Diana, Her True Story, Prince Philip still supported her. There was a family meeting where the Queen and Prince Philip encouraged Charles and Diana to think of their children, the country, and their duties instead of their personal troubles. And then at this point, Philip started writing letters to Diana to try and keep her in her marriage to Charles. According to People magazine, Philip signed the letter as Pa and initially sympathized with Diana's plight, even going so far as to say that Charles was silly to risk everything with Camilla. "We never dreamt that he might feel like leaving you for her. I cannot imagine anyone in their right mind leaving you for Camilla," he added in one of the notes. "Such a prospect never entered our heads." Later, the relationship between Prince Philip and Diana would become strained. It started when Prince Philip told Diana it was wrong of her to have extramarital affairs. He realized what she was doing was detrimental on the monarchy. And at this point, Diana started to dislike Philip and found him to be too judgmental. The end of the marriage between 1994 and 1995 had Philip's letters turning from supportive to derogatory. Diana's friend, alternative therapist Simone Simmons, told the 2007-2008 inquiry that Diana showed her two letters that really upset her. Lawyer Michael Mansfield then asked Simmons if the letters were extremely derogatory about Diana. And yes, and very cruel as well, Simmons replied, adding that they left Diana red in the face. Well, how about the relationship between Fergie and Prince Philip? Well, when Fergie first got into the family, Prince Philip and Fergie got along pretty good. Prince Philip was her father's boss, and she knew Andrew when she was a child. And Prince Philip and Fergie shared a liking for body humor. Prince Philip was impressed by Fergie's decision to learn how to pilot a plane in 1986 and by her obtaining a helicopter pilot's license in 1987. He also bonded with her because his wife, Queen Elizabeth, really liked Fergie. They would even have private meals together, which didn't happen often with the other family members. It is when she had an affair with her business partner and friend that it showed the business partner doing something with Fergie's toes. Both Philip and the Queen were very angry. Fergie had been staying at Balmoral, but the Queen suggested she return to London. According to the Sun.com, Philip couldn't be in the same room as her and refused to allow her in any of the royal residences if he was there, which applied to the end. feeling she let down the Queen and her monarchy with her indulgent behavior. So how did the Queen feel about Diana and Fergie? Even though Diana had known the Queen throughout her life, she was terrified of Queen Elizabeth. The book that Diana had told through Andrew Morton had her stating, "I have the best mother-in-law in the world." When the marriage became rocky between Charles and Diana, things got different between her and the Queen. Royal biographer Ingrid Seward wrote how the monarch began to dread emotional princess's unscheduled visits. A footman said, "The princess cried 3 times in a half hour while she was waiting to see you." And the Queen replied, "I had her for an hour, and she cried nonstop." The Queen didn't know how to help Diana, and Diana thought the Queen would have some way of making things right in her marriage to Charles. When Princess Diana died, the Queen made a statement saying, "She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness," the Queen said of Diana. "I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her 2 boys. So Fergie and the Queen, well, Fergie and the Queen got along well with each other. They bonded over horses, and the Queen would, as I have said earlier, have meals with Fergie. Fergie felt like the Queen was like a mother to her as well as a friend. Even when Fergie and Andrew divorced, the Queen and Fergie got back together and continued their friendship, even though Prince Philip was not so forgiving. But the Queen liked it that Fergie stood by Andrew even after they got divorced and would take up for him whenever somebody tried to say something about him. So that impressed the Queen. Well, next we have a prank by Diana and Fergie. In 1986, Andrew and Fergie were due to be married that April, and Diana decided to throw what she called a hen's party a week later. Andrew was having a stag party thrown for him. Diana and Sarah were miffed that they weren't invited to that party. Elton John and David Frost were going to be there. And that's when Diana and Sarah decided to pull a prank. As Fergie described in her book, My Story, Sarah, the Duchess of York, the following is what really went down. With a few conspirators in tow, we donned gray wigs and dressed up in authentic policewomen's outfits down to our regulation dark stockings and lace-up shoes. After assembling just outside the palace, we pretended to arrest one of our friends, chosen for her fabulous legs, who was playing the promiscuous lady. The duty police at the gates thought this was very strange. They called out the park police, who proceeded to arrest a lot of us, even our protection officer who played along, for causing a scene outside Buckingham Palace. They ushered us into their off-police van, and Diana and I had no intention of resisting. We thought it was hysterically funny. Indeed, the 2 ladies managed to go unrecognized, pulled off the prank, and had legitimately gotten themselves arrested. How had they managed to pull off this ruse? According to Fergie's book, we turned our engagement rings wrong side around, and it worked. They hadn't recognized us. By the time we reached the end of the mall, our cover must have worn thin, and we heard one of the policemen saying, "Oh my heavens, it's the Princess of Wales in drag." More escapades with Sarah and Diana. Diana and Fergie made headlines whenever they were together. Journalists were eager to spot them misbehaving. One example being an occasion at Royal Ascot in 1987 when they were photographed jabbing a member of their party's backside with their umbrellas. Another time they were play fighting on the ski slopes of the clusters in Switzerland with their husband and friends, and the clip went viral. Next we come to when the friendship turned rocky. When Diana and Fergie became close at the palace, in time things turned sour. According to Town and Country, though Diana and Sarah were close, they were also young, sensitive, and insecure in both themselves and their royal positions, which led to a certain amount of rivalry. Sarah impressed the Queen soon after the wedding in 1986 by getting her pilot's license, and won over Prince Philip by taking up open carriage driving, one of his favorite pastimes, and excelled at the kind of sports that the royals loved but Diana wasn't good at, including skiing and horseback riding. Diana revealed to her biographer Andrew Morton that Fergie wooed everybody in this family and did it so well she left me looking like dirt. The princess added that Prince Charles told her, "I wish you would be more like Fergie, all jolly." Diana later would not like the attention Fergie was getting, and then when Fergie was getting negative publicity, Diana didn't want to get dragged down because she was connected with Sarah, so that put a stop to them hanging out together too. Then Diana dropped communications with Sarah after Sarah came out with her book, Fergie Confidential. Town and Country said, It's thought that Diana was unhappy about the way her former sister-in-law wrote about her in her autobiography, which came out in November of that year, and one of the things to which Diana reportedly objected to is the detail that Diana gave Fergie several pairs of shoes, and less happily her plantar warts. So a year went by and they still hadn't talked, and Fergie sent Diana letters with no response. Sarah said, "I tried, wrote letters thinking whatever happened didn't matter, let's sort it out," Fergie continued. "And I knew she'd come back. In fact, the day before she died, she rang a friend of mine and said, 'Where's that Red? I want to talk to her.' It's a shame that their friendship ended over a shoe comment, and I'm sure in time Diana would have made up with Fergie." Well, Sarah was all for the reconciliation, and since her death, Fergie has spoken of her admiration and love for the late princess. In 2022, she told the UK newspaper Metro, "I think of her all the time, and especially because she and I were the only two who really understood what it was like back in the 80s. The pressure was ferocious, and yet together the two of us were powerful. Not powerful in a sense of strength or importance, but in love we had for each other, and the way we helped each other cope. Nobody else is left who understands those days." So it was a special time back in the 80s with the royal weddings of Diana and Charles and Sarah and Andrew. They were in the spotlight, and you couldn't help but love both Sarah and Diana. They brought a spark to the royal family, both good and bad, and they will never be forgotten because of their loving personalities and the days they spent at the palace. Well, I hope that everyone enjoyed the video, and if you did, if you could give it a thumbs up, that would be great. And I hope everybody's been having a good day. And tune in again soon for another episode of Queen Elizabeth, A Day in Her Life. Thank you. Bye.